Welcome everyone. Good afternoon or morning for those joining us. Welcome to this webinar on the International Placement Scheme for PhDs and honorary researchers. This is for the 26-27 round, and today we are focusing on the US opportunities, and next week we'll focus on our host in Asia. As we sort of are here over the next hour or so, we'll walk you through the program, what it is, its aim. We'll introduce you to the US host institutions as well, and guide you through how to make a strong application. And then, we're delighted to have some of our colleagues here to present from the US institutions as well, and then a recent IPS participant who will share their insights and advice. So really delighted to have them here. Just gonna go to the second sort of bits of information before we start and begin. Just a really quick note on housekeeping. So this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available on our UKRI opportunity page and also through our AHRC YouTube channel shortly after the event. If you've got any concern around this, please do get in touch with us at the email address here on the slides or just in the chat as well. All participants here are muted during the webinar, but if you'd like to submit a question at any point, you can just use the Q&A function where you can also upvote the questions that you're interested in as well. We'll address those questions at the end. We've got a dedicated Q&A session. And then if you want to sort of say your question out loud, you can just raise your hand and we'll unmute you as well. The chat function is also available and will be monitored, but this is sort of for a different purpose, to raise any technical issues or any matters arising. So please feel free to just use that for that matter. And then if you want to enable live caption or transcript, you just have to go through, if you've never used Teams, it's just in the language and speech, and then you can show live captions this way as well. So as a small introduction, this is the agenda how it's looking like. So we'll begin with an icebreaker, and I will also introduce the guest speakers and the aim, the benefits, the sort of collections of the International Placement Scheme. Then I'll walk through how to apply and the assessment criteria, so eligibility, application tips, process, and timelines. Then we've got here Travis Henley, who's program manager at the Kluge Center in the Library of Congress, who will share their insights on this particular sort of bit of the program. We've got Kameni as well, program manager at the Smithsonian Institution, and Jemma, associate head of research and director of undergraduate studies for British studies, in the Yale Center for British Art, and then Jan King, who's a recent IPS participant at the Library of Congress, who will also share their insights. So really delighted to have them here for you. At the end, we'll open up the floor for a Q&A session as well, and that will be a chance to ask questions about anything coming up for the next round. I'm also joined by my colleague Iris, who manages the scheme with myself, and operations colleagues Ian, Tom, and as well Mike from my IT team. So they're all here to help you on this webinar. We'll aim to have no more than an hour in this webinar, and we'll answer your questions within that time. But if we don't have the time for all the questions, we'll follow up with the answers after this call. So just to ease us in, we'll have a little icebreaker. So if you would like to just scan this QR code, it will bring you to the actual place where you can use it. So not sure if you can see this. Brilliant. Hopefully everyone can see this, and I can see that there's a few participants coming in. Amazing. So just give maybe 1 minute or so for others to join. Perfect. All right, let's go. So the first question we'd like you to tell us is, where are you joining us from today? So yes, that's great. So we've got a good mix of different places in the UK. Amazing. Well, welcome everyone. It's great to see such a wide variety of different universities. Great, lovely. How did you hear about the AHRC International Placement Scheme? Brilliant. Great, lovely. Thank you. That's good to see that. Amazing. And what are you hoping to learn or gain from today's webinar? Brilliant. So we hope to do exactly that. So yeah, we'll be able to provide more info. Hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what the scheme can offer, tips and advice and process for application. Yeah, so hopefully that meets your needs. And then have you applied for IPS before? Just curious to see whether there's anyone here except for Jan that has been in the scheme. So looks like not. So sounds good. Thank you so much, everyone. So we'll go back to the presentation now. And again, okay. Oops. Great. All right. So then I'll just start with the aims of the scheme. So the International Placement Scheme, or IPS, I'll refer to this after that, is our annual program which provides research placement to early career researchers, doctoral level research assistants, and AHRC or a small number of ESRC funded doctoral students at internationally renowned cultural institutions. It is AHRC's longest running scheme, and this year actually marks the 20th anniversary of it, and is a real flagship global initiative for career mobility. The scheme provides dedicated access to collections, facilities, programs, expertise, and represents a unique opportunity to transform the depth, the range, the diversity, and the quality of your research, of your individual research project. It strengthens international collaboration, provides early opportunities for networking, exposes scholars to new research cultures as well, and helps to accelerate career development. You will join a vibrant community of scholars in the host institutions that you'll participate in, and you'll access sort of different disciplines and geographies that hopefully you can share knowledge and sort of shape the future of the arts and humanities. To date, we've supported more than 600 placements, many of which have led to publications, lasting partnerships, and onward research opportunities. And for any PhD students funded by the Economic and Social Research Council in the audience, it's important to note that you can only apply to the Library of Congress. So IPS offers a huge range of benefits. As I said, you've got unrestricted access to collections resources of the host. You'll be included in the host fellowship program, and you'll have a dedicated office or workspace provided. You also will have privileges and experiences similar to the scholars at the host institutions, and you'll be exposed to non-UK research environment. The host has a range of expertise, and they will be able to support you through that. They've also got networking and collaboration opportunities, and you'll be able to forge hopefully long life friendships and connections. And then your professional development as well through, in going through conferences, seminars, classes, and develop your transferable skills this way as well. At the moment, we've got 7 hosts, although this sort of webinar is focused on the US. We also we also have 2 hosts in Shanghai and Japan. But for this purpose of this webinar, we'll focus on the Huntington Library, the Harry Ransom Center, the Library of Congress, Smithsonian Institution, and the Yale Center for British Art. So the Harry Ransom Center in the University of Texas is a world-leading research institution and museum. It's dedicated to the advancing of the study of the arts and humanities by acquiring, preserving, and making accessible original cultural materials. It specializes in literature, photography, film, art, and the performing arts. And collections provide a unique insight into the creative processes of some of our finest writers and artists. For example, it holds the major archives such as the Robert De Niro of scripts, notes, costumes, and props from the Gone with the Wind film. The center has a busy event of schedule, and it maintains a very engaged community of fellows in their active scholarly programs, including an informal weekly lunchtime talks each Thursday for current fellows and visiting scholars to meet one another and also to meet the staff within those programs. So the scholars are really encouraged to present their work in progress and, participate in discussion of the center as well. The Huntington Library is one of the world's great independent research library, with more than 11 million items spanning the 11th and 21st century. Its strengths include British and American literature, history, and the history of science, medicine and technology, architecture, and Hispanic history and culture. Scholars have access to extraordinary materials, including the manuscript by George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Abraham Lincoln, including the original manuscript of Franklin's autobiography and a wide range of rare books. The Huntington also provides world-class facilities and a peaceful, research-focused environment, as you can see here on the photo, where you'll be likely studying and working as well. This is the Munger Research Center of the library. The Library of Congress is the largest library in the world. So Travis on the call here will provide you much more insight into this, but I just wanted to provide a quick insight. So it holds more than 178 million items in the global collections, with more than 41 million cataloged books and print materials in 470 languages and over 78.5 million manuscripts. It is the largest collection of maps, legal materials, films, sheet music, and sound recordings. The Kluge Center is one of the main points of contact for the members of the Congress and the staff at the library, and it's the main hub for IPS researchers, providing workspace, email addresses, research support, etc., and then on engagement with congressional and scholarly communities. The Smithsonian Institution is one of the world's largest museum, education, and research complex, with 21 museums, 14 education and research centers, and the National Zoo as well. It's focused on preserving heritage, discovering new knowledge, and sharing our resources with the world. Its collection ranged from 3.5 billion-year-old ancient fossil to the iconic pair of ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz. So because of the range is so vast, you'll absolutely have to contact the Smithsonian to be able to sort of identify a potential advisor and confirm the feasibility of your project, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. The Yale Center for British Art holds the largest collection of British art outside of the UK. Jemma here on the call is also here to provide a bigger insight into this. But the collection spans paintings, sculptures, prints, drawings, and rare books, with particular strength in the 18th and 19th centuries. The center hosts conferences, symposia, and seminars and lectures, as well as more broadly events related to British art history, creating a dynamic community that IPS researchers can engage with. This slide gives you a little bit of a flavor of the types of projects that IPS participants have been able to engage with, and gives you like a sort of varied and how varied and innovative the research can be in those different institutions. So as you can see, there's been from literature to visual culture to performance, etc., etc. Next, we'll go into a bit more of the sort of process and the eligibility, and then I'll also give a bit of tips on how to strengthen your application, what the different steps you can do to do this, and then I'll move on to the next section. So for individual eligibility and funding, it is open to current early career researchers, doctoral level research assistants, and PhD students in their funding period. As I said in the beginning, the PhD students must be funded by AHRC, and there's also ESRC, so that's our Economic and Social Research Council that supports PhD going to the Library of Congress. The PhD must undertake their placement within their funded periods, and because this is intended to sort of enrich your doctoral study, there's no additional time that can be added to your doctoral award end date to do this placement, if that makes sense. So ECRs, I've had a couple of questions on what that means. They are either expected to sort of hold a doctorate by the end of the fellowship and demonstrate equivalent research and or innovation experience, but there's no eligibility rules as to how many years you've been completing your PhD, and you basically can self-identify as an ECR if you sort of respond to any of the criteria that we've listed on the opportunity page. So, for example, you can't have led a significant piece of work. You could be, for example, precariously employed, or returning from a career break, or changing career paths, or even a career change that is quite recent from, say, industry to academia or something like that. These durations should exclude any periods of career breaks. So we define a career break as an extended period where you have not been engaged in research or teaching. And there's more detail on our opportunity page and also in the AHRC research funding guide for that. Lastly, doctoral level research assistants, they are expected to have a postdoctoral standing. So for example, a PhD qualification or equivalent research experience. And you must also be affiliated to a UK research organization at the time of your application. You can carry your research between 2 to 6 months, and you must remain in country throughout the whole placement. And what we can provide is a one-off payment for visa and flight of £1,000. So that's been paid sort of for you to book these things. And then you're going to have a one month stipend of 2.5K in addition to any PhD funding that you receive. So the next 3 slides is about some tips to strengthen your application. So I've sort of split it into 3 steps. So pre-proposal preparation. The next one is going to be about proposal writing, and then also the supporting documents that you should submit as well. So before writing your proposal, you'll need to prepare your application by scoping your application, contacting host institutions, demonstrating a compelling and specific need for a placement, and ensuring that you can actually do your proposal. So first, you should really research a host institution really thoroughly. So the first protocol is going into the websites of the host institutions that we've provided on the opportunity page, explore their catalogs, their digital archives, all of what you can find on their pages, and really research well what would be of interest for your project and your research question. Second thing is to discuss with your supervisor if you're a PhD, or head of department if you're an ECR, and to ensure that you can actually, it brings something to your research project that you're currently doing, and also if there is any sort of specific activities or outputs that you can sort of identify through your research, and also to discuss whether this is feasible, so they will have an insight on that too. Then you should go through our opportunity page and see if you're sort of meeting our requirements there. And then next is to sort of engage with your host really early. So the Huntington Library and the Smithsonian Institution, you must contact them as you're sort of engaging with that. The other host is optional but really highly recommended. So you can reach out to the contacts that we've provided on the page as well, and that will be able to sort of clarify if there's availability for you to join their specific collections. And then you can refine sort of the scope and the timeline that you've sort of identified through your research. Also key to that is that it needs to be relevant to the host as well. So they will be able to give you an insight on sort of how to make it most relevant. Then the last sort of bits of advice is to make sure that your project enhances sort of the host strength. So you'll be able through your conversation to see what is best for sort of that placement itself. The second slide is about proposal writing. So when you're preparing a proposal for submission to the UKRI funding services, which is the sort of typical route for applications here, you need to ensure that you demonstrate a really critical need for the host institution placement. So that means naming the specific collections, materials, archives that you want to go through, and identify why this is essential for your project. So the key of this program is really that we're enabling research that would otherwise not been able to be carried away. So it's really critical that you really highlight this and why in person is indispensable in this way as well. We also want to see a clear rationale for the length of the residency that you're proposing. So you should have like a good plan in mind. And yeah, just to note that if you do not reference specific collections, it'll be really hard for us to sort of score you, and they're unlikely to succeed. Second, your proposal must show strong scholarly value and sort of contribution to the field. So explaining what new knowledge, questions will sort of emerge from your research and will generate in the arts, humanities, and social sciences. You should precisely identify how the placement will enhance the depth, the range, and the quality of your research, and sort of position within current debates, so to sort of enhance the project's academic value. And also explain how your work aligns and contributes to the host institution's strengths. So, for example, if you can find, on their website any information on the current research that they're doing, or the sort of thematic and methodological priorities, that'd be of really good point to add. Third point is about the proposal being clear and a feasible sort of research plan that is well designed and well thought of. So you'll have between 2 and 6 months of residency, and obviously you need to identify sort of what you can achieve in that and the capacity to sort of deliver those proposed activities. So as every research question that I'm sure you've been doing before is sort of identify the question itself, the aims, the objectives, the methods, and the outputs that you'll be able to sort of go through. And then sort of, the specific activities. So if you, for example, want to carry out some interviews or engagements, you need to sort of highlight that as well. And then how it connects to your broader research project. So if you're a PhD student, how does that contribute to sort of your overall PhD project as well? And then lastly, really keep it quite focused and outcomes driven. We're looking for specific things that you can pull out from your application and just avoid being too broad or diffuse. Lastly, demonstrate that you can perhaps have interdisciplinary approach. So how to support that if the host is able to, and then also the wider relevance to sort of discourse. So how to engage your project through that too. On top of that, you will have to submit some supporting materials. So your CV should demonstrate your skills and aptitude to deliver the work. If you have sort of previous practice-based experience, those sort of things be good to sort of highlight if that's sort of relevant to the application that you're going through. The skills required for the work that you'll be carrying as well, and any sort of outputs, activities that you've done in the past. So just highlight that as well. And then obviously you'll also have to submit a statement of support from either your PhD supervisor or the head of department. So they'll be able to sort of corroborate with your application to show that you're able to deliver the work that you're proposing. Just a note that you should really liaise with your proposed host during the application period to confirm the availability of collection and staff support as well. So that's really important. On host-specific eligibility requirements, the Smithsonian requires advanced contact, and they must select a contact to sort of approach and inquire about this application. There's also a sort of guidance for Smithsonian applicants, which will be distributed as after this call. And if your application is successful, you'll have to create a account on the Smithsonian online academic appointment system. I'm sure Christian, who's on the call now, will give you a bit more detail on this. So yeah. Again, I can't emphasize enough that you should really make sure that you research your host really thoroughly. So first point here, I've added it again just to make sure that you do really that. Applications must be submitted to the UKRI funding services, and they must be sort of completed clearly and concisely in the portal instructions. The project lead, not sure if you've ever done a UKRI sort of round before, but that is you. So you'll be responsible for sort of guiding the research. So that should be you on the sort of funding services. Only the lead research organization can submit the application. So even though you will go through the application yourself, it can only be submitted by your research office. If you're a PhD funded by a consortium of research organization, the application should be submitted by your home research organization, not the consortium of research organization. But you can find all details on this on the UKRI opportunity page that we have live now. So the next sort of bits of screenshots here are just to sort of highlight the bits that are important, but you can go through this on your own time and see how the process looks like. But basically, when you're ready to sort of submit your application, you go and click on the Start Application, and it'll guide you through this UKRI funding services. Just a really quick note on assessment process. So the application will be checked for eligibility after the funding opportunity closes. If the applications are ineligible, you'll get sort of rejected, and this will be notified as soon as it's rejected. If your application is eligible, it will be submitted to the respective placement institutions and will be reviewed by experts in the institutions as well. And then we'll have scores and comments from the host reviews that will be moderated by AHRC and ESRC. And so the assessment areas that we will use is eligibility, purpose, applicant experience, and then the support from your supervisor or head of department. Lastly, just key advice. So this is the deadline that you're working towards. And these are the sort of window for placements to take place in individual hosts, and then the placement duration. So I invite you to check the available document on the funding finder as well. You can see that for checking those availability. I will now pass on to my colleague Travis Henley to be able to sort of guide you through a little bit of the Library of Congress, and then we can pass on to that. Over to you, Travis.
Yes, thank you, Eva. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Travis Henley. I'm a program manager here at the Kluge Center. I oversee fellowships, internships, and events. I have been with the center and managing this partnership for 14 years, which is hard to believe. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the library, the Kluge Center, and then the application process. So as was mentioned earlier, we are the world's largest library. Those numbers that we had up are actually a couple years old. We now have over 180 million items. That includes over 40 million books, 4.3 million audio materials, 79 million manuscripts, nearly 6 million maps, 1.8 million moving images, 8.2 million items of sheet music, 16 million photographs, 870,000 posters, and then a number of other items. It is actually the largest collection of knowledge in human history in one physical place here at the library. And we actually get 22,000 new items a day to add to those collection numbers. And, you know, one thing I think to keep in mind about the library, is it's not just Americanists that can do research here. The Library of Congress has the largest Russian collections outside of Russia. We have the largest Chinese collections outside of China, so on and so forth. In addition to acting as, the National Library, the institution is also home to the Copyright Office of the United States, as well as the Congressional Research Service, since we are the research arm of Congress. Now, in terms of the Kluge Center, is the academic center here at the Library of Congress. It was founded in 2000 by a generous donation from John W. Kluge, and this is actually our 25th anniversary at the center. During that time, we've had over 1,400 scholars come through the center, and the center was sort of founded to be a place that connects thought and action. And what that means is sort of to bring in sort of outside thought leaders, scholars, and have them, engage with sort of the congressional community across the street. We are the Library of Congress. So again, to help inform members of Congress and their staff. The center essentially has three main functions. The first, which is the most important to you all, is that we're a residential scholarly center. So at any given point, we have 30 to 50 scholars in residence undertaking their own research really broadly in the humanities and social sciences. The scholars come in at two different levels. We have 13 different chair programs, and these are more senior people, university presidents, also practitioners. We've had religious leaders, heads of state that come in at the chair level. So that's one level. And then we also have the fellows, which between our partnerships and the fellowship programs we run, we have over 20 programs. And the largest partnership that the center has is actually with the AHRC for the IPS fund scheme. We've actually had over 450 alumni come through the IPS over the 20 years that we've had this partnership. The second function is that the Kluge Center does event programming. So we do events for members of Congress, congressional staff, and the general public. These are events that, our scholars and residents are welcome to attend, not the congressional ones. And so, we do events to sort of project the scholarship that is, being undertaken here at the center, and to sort of highlight the work of, our scholars to sort of both a congressional and sort of general audience. And the third function is that we administer the Kluge Prize, which is a $500,000 prize for the achievement in the humanities. That happens, every 2 years. We are undertaking that process right now. And it will be awarded this year, this coming summer. Scholars and residents have their own cubicles, bookshelves, and PC. Any materials from the general collection are delivered directly to you at the Kluge Center. You can keep up to 250 books at a time. The only time I'll take a book away is if a member of Congress requests it. Some of them do read. But, obviously some of the most positive feedback I think that we receive in terms of, people's experience being at the center are first and foremost the collections and sort of the expertise, of the staff. But I think second, and it's something I want to mention is, it's also, we get really positive feedback about the community that we try to build at the center. And, there's a number of different ways we do that. We do weekly brown bag lunches where everyone gets together. We do receptions, field trips to other institutions, the occasional pub night, works in progress. So again, it's obviously a place where you're going to have access to collections. But again, we try to strive to sort of create a community of scholars at the center as well, which is, I think obviously added benefit. And in terms of the application, our role in assessing these for, the AHRC and the ESRC is to speak to the collection's ability to support the project. And so one of the most important things, obviously, is going to be to highlight unique items held at the library that are critical to your project. And sometimes that can happen in two different ways. One, it's a manuscript item or some unique item that we only have at the library. And so you need that item and you can't access it anywhere else. The other is sort of under one roof. So, you know, if there's a number of different things that you need to assess and there's no other institution where you could, you know, find them all under one roof other than the library, that's another, you know, important distinction, I think, to make. Now, historically, AHRC had given potential applicants my contact information, and I would connect you with the sort of curatorial or reference staff for the area you're studying. The library now really wants individuals to use this Ask a Librarian function. So if you go to the www.loc.gov, there's an Ask a Librarian function. And just for, you know, data collection and tracking, they really want every sort of inquiries to come through there. And then what they'll do, though, is when you submit an inquiry through Ask a Librarian, they're going to connect you with the reference or curatorial staff that are the subject matter experts, you know, for sort of whatever collection or subject that you're going to be researching. So make sure that you do that. The other thing that's important of why sort of making contact with these individuals that work in the sort of custodial divisions is that not everything that we have is online. And so the catalog is not going to capture everything that we hold that might be beneficial to your research. And so making, you know, connections with sort of a human that's a subject matter expert is going to be important for them, not to just highlight the, you know, the items that are in the catalog that are going to be helpful for you, but items that you aren't going to be able to know about just because they're processed. So that was a quick overview. I hope that was a little helpful, but I know after this, you all will get the opportunity to ask any questions of me. So thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Travis. That was really helpful. Next, we've got Christian from the Smithsonian Institution to come and talk about this. Kristen, to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Christian Kameni, and I'm a program specialist in the Office of Academic Appointments and Internships here at the Smithsonian. I have been with this office for about 6 years now, and I've been managing this program or partnership for about 6 years as well. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start, you know, talking a bit about the Smithsonian. Some of which you guys probably already know through your own personal research, but for the sake of this presentation, I will be covering that information again. So if it is a repetition to you, please bear with me. The first thing to know is that the Smithsonian is the world's largest museum complex. Oftentimes people think of the Smithsonian to look at it as one museum, whereas in actuality, we are 21 museums, 9 research centers, and the National Zoo. So when you're thinking about submitting an application for this program, you actually do have the opportunity of being placed at one of our 21 museums and 9 research centers. We have facilities and museums all throughout the United States, including places like New York City, Virginia, the state of Maryland, Florida, Massachusetts, Arizona, Panama, Hawaii, and many other places. The Smithsonian is a bit different from a lot of museums, and that's because we are a government instrumentality. And part of what that means is that, you know, we are funded by both the federal government and private sources. By private sources, I'm referring to endowments and gifts. Being that we are the world's largest museum complex, we have a collection of over 157 museums, objects, and specimens, which is a lot. So in other words, you know, if there's a research that you are interested in conducting, we more than likely have the information or collection that you need to be able to accomplish your research here at the institution. We have over 6,000 employees and more than 5,000 volunteers. Again, it is a huge institution. And as I've already mentioned, we have 21 museums. So as you guys are thinking about submitting an application for this program, I want you to think broadly, right? Because you're not applying to just one museum. You're applying to an institution that has the ability to possibly provide you access to one of the 21 museums or 9 research centers that I'm talking about here. One of the things we like to emphasize is that at the Smithsonian, you know, our fellows are not employees or contractors, right? And they are academic appointees who come to the Smithsonian to conduct independent research. So you are and you will be an independent researcher here at the Smithsonian. And one of the perks of being an independent researcher is that you not only have access to all this amazing information, but you also have access to a network of scholars, right, scientists, researchers, curators across the institution that are able to make your time here at the institution as seamless as possible, but also as knowledgeable and enriching as possible as well. The great thing about the Smithsonian is that everyone is welcome to apply and everyone is welcome to seek placement at the institution. And what I mean by that is it's not just we just don't have opportunities for those who are U.S. citizens or permanent residents. We also have opportunities for non-U.S. citizen and foreign national. So if you are a foreign national on this call, whether you be a British citizen or a non-British citizen, right, but you are interested in applying for this opportunity, you're welcome to apply. And that is because we at the Smithsonian, we do sponsor J1 visas for anyone that's eligible for a J1 visa, which is a great thing. So again, everyone is welcome to apply, no matter the nationality. Should you be eligible for a J1 visa, we will likely sponsor your J1 visa if you're successful in this application process. So next, I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the perks of being a Smithsonian Fellow through this partnership. The first perk is that, fellows do have an assigned advisor at their unit. So that advisor serves as your point of contact and also make sure that you have access to the collections that you need and provide you with guidance, throughout your tenure here at the Smithsonian. The other perk is that our fellows do have an assigned coordinator, and that coordinator is based at your unit. So an example would be if you are placed at the National Zoo, which is also part of the Smithsonian, you will have a coordinator at the National Zoo that will handle all things administrative, including things such as your background check, access to the network, building access, and so many other things that you may need access to at the unit/museum. Fellows are also provided with a desk on office space, depending on the location during their tenure, and that coordinator that you will have assigned to you will make sure that you have access to that desk or office space once you start your fellowship here at the Smithsonian. All fellows also do have access to Smithsonian libraries. And as I've mentioned, we have a huge collection and we have so many libraries across the institution, spread across all 21 museums. So again, if you're looking to be at a space that really does provide you with all the tools and the resources to be able to complete your research or make some type of progress in the research that you'll be conducting, we have the libraries available to you to make that feasible. And then the other great perks that our fellows do get to enjoy is that we do provide 20% discounts at our gift shops and bookstores. So as a fellow, you will be able to benefit from that. And you also get 30% off discount at cafeterias. A lot of our museums here at the Smithsonian do have cafeterias, and some of the cafeterias have amazing food, at least the one that I've tried. So again, should you be successful in this process, you will be able to benefit from the perks of the 20% discount at the gift shops/bookstore or the 30% at cafeterias. Now, let's talk about the application process when it comes to this partnership and how things work on the Smithsonian side of the house. One of the things that was mentioned earlier is that, all applicants are encouraged to have contacted someone. And by someone, I mean a research staff or curator at the Smithsonian prior to submitting the application. This is one of the most vital steps in the application process, and that is because when you are submitting an application, you want to make sure that the collection that you're looking to access will be available for you should you be successful. And one of the ways making sure that collection is going to be available or you will be able to have access to the collection is by having a conversation with one of our research staff or curator who has had access to that collections or knows the ins and outs of the collections and will be able to vouch on whether or not, access will be provided or granted to you. Without completing this step of contacting an advisor or curator, quite frankly, it makes things a little bit challenging because we do have some collections that are very, very difficult to access. And in order for you to access those collections, again, it will be quite a challenge. So not having that initial contact makes it very difficult. And also, when we send out applications for review to our reviewers, here at the institution, and oftentimes reviewers tend to be the folks who you've also contacted because we want to make sure that we have feedback from them right, about your application, and again, the access to the collection piece that I mentioned. So without having feedback from that reviewer, it makes things a little bit challenging on both end, on your end as the applicant and also our end as the office that manages and administers the applications. Now, and then the question that I often get is that, how do I go about finding out, who is the point of contact or who is the researcher or the curator, at the institution that I can contact? And I mentioned to you guys that, again, we want to contact our curators and our research staff, and that's all through Source. Source is pretty much a publication that we have on our website, and I'm going to post a link to Source in the chat where you guys are able to just go ahead and look up a curator or research staff at all of the different units, right? So if there's a unit that you're specifically interested in being placed at, you are able to look up, that research staff or that curator at the unit and then reach out to the person because their contact information is available through Source. And by having that information, you guys can start a conversation about your research, again, discuss access to the collections, and eventually, talk about, ways in which you guys can, put together a successful application and so forth. Again, so the links to Source is coming in the chat now. So for you guys who are interested in applying to this fellowship program at the Smithsonian, I will say please take full advantage of using this research link that I'm posting in the chat for your own good. The next thing that I'm going to talk about here is, when you're applying for an opportunity at the Smithsonian, one of the things you want to make sure that you do is to actually research, what's available, right? Again, in the collections. And what I mean by researching what's available is that you want to know the ins and outs of the collections. And that's because oftentimes when I'm reviewing applications for some of our other fellowship programs, people are proposing, research for the type of collection that we don't even have available, right? Or the type of collection that requires special access. So again, without actually doing your due diligence and doing your research and knowing, again, what's available and communicating with that research staff, it makes it very, very challenging for us to be able to move your application forward because it just tells us that you have not done your research on the type of collection that's available. So therefore, it may not be a good fit. So again, doing your research is instrumental, is vital. I can't say that enough, but also, having that conversation with the research staff is another thing that you definitely want to take seriously when submitting an application. And then the last thing that I want to talk about here when it comes to applying for an opportunity through this partnership, especially at the Smithsonian, is that you want to make sure that you do everything in a timely fashion, because oftentimes it looks like we have a lot of time, but whereas time goes by so fast, as we all know. So you want to give yourself ample amount of time to put together a successful application. So start the preparation process as early as possible. Start the outreach, to the research staff and curators as early as possible. So again, making sure that you have everything lined up so that when the application deadline gets here, you're not scrambling at the last minute, with correcting your proposal and so forth, and just doing last minute things that may take much longer than you anticipated. So again, giving yourself ample amount of time to put together a successful application will be another advice that I'll give you guys. So with that being said, that's pretty much all that I have to share today. If you guys have any questions, after this call, or, I'm sure there's going to be a Q&A section, I'll be more than happy to answer your question. We look forward to receiving your application here at the Smithsonian. Again, it is a great opportunity, and it's one of those opportunities that does provide you access to a wealth of knowledge, a great network of people, will essentially lead you to do some amazing things. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Christian, for this really comprehensive insights. Next up, we've got Jemma Field from the YCBA. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. In the interest of time, I shall be relatively quick. And unlike both presenters we've heard before just now, the Yale Centre for British Art is comparatively easy and small to manage. So the Yale Centre for British Art is, as Eva mentioned at the start, it's a museum. It's a private museum that was founded on the collections of Paul Mellon, who was the son of Andrew Mellon, who was a philanthropist and I should say, financial powerhouse in the early industrial period in America. We are based at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. So if you come to us as part of the scheme, you will be embedded in, I guess, the wider sort of intellectual framework of a prestigious Ivy League institution in America. The Yale Centre for British Art, I guess our major thing about this is that we are collections focused. So what we are looking for in our applications is that you have identified specific things within our holdings that you really need to come on site to look at. Our collection is the majority of it is online, has been digitized. You can search for it freely through our website. Some of the material in our rare books and manuscripts collection has not been digitized, but it is all catalogued online, so it is able to be easily accessed. And one of the things that we do sort of count against applicants is not showing sufficient background research into our collection. Because it is all widely available, we strongly believe that candidates should take the time to really look through it. The other thing too is because it is digitized and we use IIIF, which is a type of it's a framework that enables for extremely high resolution, and all of our digitized material is freely available for download and use in high resolution, either as a TIFF or a JPEG file. We also like to see evidence of why you need to be specifically on site, why your project requires you to be at Yale and not just being able to use the stuff that is already digitized. One way to think about that too is that you'll be within the Yale community. So we are just one of several collections units at Yale, which also includes probably most famously the Beinecke Rare Book Library, which itself is a major international repository of significant archival and printed material, which is also available to look through online. At the YCBA, all of our researchers are given desks in our research library, so there's always a little community of people. So the IPS scheme fits within our broader fellowship program, which is international, and we typically have around three to five people on site at any one time. What else do I need to say? So I guess the other thing that we look for is, I do want to make a very clear point that we hold what is commonly called, as our name suggests, British art. We define British in very capacious terms. So one of the largest repositories that we have actually relates to India, both in terms of the period of the Raj, but also throughout Indian history. So we basically, the British Empire at one point or another has touched many parts of this globe. So we do have a very capacious holding that extends well beyond the geographic confines of the United Kingdom as a set of islands. So do please bear that in mind, because it is sometimes misleading that people think we only have material that relates to England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, and that is not true. So, so basically our number one, I'm just going to touch on 5 very quick points about how to make a strong application for the YCBA. The first one is alignment with our collections, as I mentioned. The second one is originality and scholarly contribution. And this is true too for PhD scholars, that we believe you will be looking for proposals that advance new questions, methods, or interpretations. The next one is feasibility. So we do want to see that whatever time period you're proposing, we typically offer between 1 and 3 month stays, that you have a realistic plan of how you're going to use that time. We are also looking for engagement and interdisciplinarity. So that is connecting to other collections units at Yale and resources, so sort of a sense of broader networks. Of course, Yale is full of academics as well, and we are very happy to facilitate connections for you to meet with faculty members who are available and open to meeting with you. So you can also talk about specialists in your field that are at Yale that you would like to connect with. And then lastly is just about broader relevance, that we want to see a sense of your understanding of broader conversations, whether that's about, even if it's just about pressing questions that you see in the humanities or museum studies or pedagogy or whatever your field is. And I'm going to leave it at that because I know we only have 4 minutes to go. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jemma, and thanks, Travis and Christian, again for your contribution. Hopefully, it's swept the appetite from the participants. In interest of time, we'll go through Jan's presentation, and then let's see if we have time for Q&A. But we will aim to respond to your question after this event as well, if you haven't been able to post it on the Q&A. But for now, Jan, over to you. I'll just share my screen now.
Thanks, Eva. Shall I share my presentation?
Oh, you can share your presentation if you want. I'll just unshare. There you go.
If I can, yeah.
Just let me know.
Yeah, I think I can share it. Hold on. Can you see that or not?
Yes, we can, but not the full screen.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So share. Can you see that?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay. Thanks. Great to see everybody. I'll keep it short because a lot of things have been covered. But the bottom line is, this is a great opportunity, and I'd encourage everybody to apply. So that's the only thing to take away, really. But so what I was looking at, I'm at Queen's in Belfast, and I was looking at the role theatre can play for military veterans in Northern Ireland. But I was keen to learn from what's happened in the US, particularly at the Library of Congress, so I could take some of the stories that are there, their experience of theatre and veterans, and take that back to Northern Ireland. So the Library of Congress has a very active Veterans History Project, and so that gave me a great opportunity to look at that archive and use that for, well, to use it later, because I just finished at the library the beginning of this year. It's a great collection, and there's some great staff that are associated with it. They've got a team of about 30 people working on it, doing various things, and they were really, really helpful. In addition, there's an incredible performance reading room with lots of great material around performance that probably is available in the UK, but not in one place. And so that was really valuable, particularly some of this, the material that related to the military and the US military in the past. The other thing that I found really helpful, which again was surprising, was the depth of material on Northern Ireland and the Troubles in particular, because it's been obviously an important thing that the US has partook in. So, and it's also worth saying that I was also able to meet with other projects, so outside of the library. So there's a lot of active projects around theatre and veterans, and I was able to sort of follow up with them, which was really helpful. The application process has been spoken about already, but definitely just to emphasize, the conversations with librarians was particularly helpful. So I'd suggest doing that. It took a while to draft and rework the proposal, as you'd expect, and getting my supervisor on board took a bit of persuading, but actually was very, very supportive. But it was a bit of a conversation, and I didn't realize till quite late on that I couldn't submit the application myself. That was emphasized earlier, I think, by Eva, but so that just needed to be factored in as well. I think for me, what stood out was I was able to emphasize how I could apply the research, and also that I'd be focusing on a resource that was untapped or wasn't being used to full potential in terms of the Veterans History Project. So I think they were the things that stood out from my application. I could be wrong, but that's what I discerned. So getting accepted was amazing. It took a little while to hear back, actually, so don't expect a quick response, because there's obviously quite a process to doing the assessment. But then the bureaucracy starts, and maybe I was particularly affected by this, because other people said it wasn't a big deal. So don't let this put you off by any means. But the visa application itself does take a bit longer now, I think, because of political changes, and also things like excuse me, your social media has to be public. So there's a number of changes that you need to be aware of. Excuse me. Then there are other things which come afterwards, like getting your insurance. And I know from one colleague, the university didn't cover her at the right level, so she had to pay for insurance separately, sorting out accommodation, and getting the budget and finance is obviously quite important. And I'm pleased to see that the stipend rate has increased, which is great. So yes, so there's a number of things to take into account on that. Lots of Washington and the US are not cheap places to live, and I think accommodation in particular is quite expensive. So I know colleagues who've managed to stay within their budget. I didn't, but it's also a great opportunity. So bear that in mind. And yes, if applying to the Library of Congress and any other federal funded facility, I was hit by the US government shutdown, which actually effectively halved my time at the Kluge Center. I guess it's hard to know when these things are going to happen, but bear in mind there may be other things, and so you may want to factor in longer than you think you need to take account of some of these things. So, as I said at the start, it's a really brilliant opportunity. I feel really honoured to have done it, and to have met the people at the Kluge Center who have been amazing in their support and what they've facilitated. There's also a great group of scholars, as Travis mentioned, who just are really helpful and great to be around. And yeah, as I say, it was an excellent opportunity. So thank you. If anybody wants to find out more from me particularly, do get in touch with me. That's my email address. And that's it from me. So.
And thanks so much, Jan, for this really insightful presentation. Good to emphasize the visa point, that it takes a long time. So yeah, hopefully people are very informed about this. So we're at time at the moment, so we won't have time for your questions, unfortunately, but as I said in the chat, please do feel free to email us at international@ahrc.ukri.org, and we'll be able to answer you, pass on to the relevant people as well. And just to say, yeah, all the best with your application. I hope this was informative for you, and speak soon then. Bye, everyone.